Hey, beekeepers, it's segment time again here at Honeybee Obscura. What we're thinking about today is how we routinely put on our bee suit without thinking much about it. You know that putting on a bee suit hasn't always been an option for all beekeepers. In fact, in a way, compared to the age of beekeeping, bee suits are kind of a recent development. I've got my good friend and co-beekeeper here, Anne Frey. Anne, say good morning.
Hi, Jim. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thanks for talking to us today about this exciting topic. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I've never talked specifically about bee suits and bee suit design. Kim and I talked about protective gear, but never specifically about bee suits. So to make this thing formal, Anne, let me introduce myself. I'm Jim Tew, and I'm here at Honeybee Obscura, where once a week I try to talk about something to do with some aspect of plain talk beekeeping.
Hi, I'm Anne Frey from Betterbee, and I'm glad to be here.
So stand by, listeners. We want to talk to you for a few minutes, and we want you to know right up front, thank you for being here.
Welcome to Honeybee Obscura, brought to you by Growing Planet Media, the producers of the Beekeeping Today podcast. Join Jim Tew, your guide through the complexities, the beauty, the fun, and the challenges of managing honeybees. Jim hosts fun and interesting guests who take a deep dive into the intricate world of honeybees. Whether you're a seasoned beekeeper or just getting started, get ready for some plain talk that'll delve into all things honeybees.
Listeners, I want to say Anne suggested this topic, and I liked it right away because I'd never really thought about it. I've got some old catalogs, just a motley collection, nothing special. But some of them are pretty old, back to the 1916, 1915. In 1921, you could buy a Thule bee veil. You could buy one of two models, and each model cost $1. Or you could buy the material yourself, and if you were excellent at sewing, you could make your own bee veil. That was it. Those two items and some gloves that had been modified for the purpose, but they weren't even modified with gauntlets and things like now. It was really, really simple. That was it, beekeepers. There was no bee suits, no half suits, no coveralls, no nothing. Whatever you wore was your business. And you pointed out that a lot of these old pictures have beekeepers out there wearing bee veils and suits and ties.
Yeah, it seems like to my feeling that they're dressed fancy, but it might have just been that the old-fashioned way of dressing for every day is what I call fancy now.
That's a good point. You know, I used to wear ties. I always wore a tie when I gave a bee talk. I got a nice collection of bee ties, and now I never have an opportunity to dress fancy. It seems people seem to have kind of been more casualized, if that's a word.
Yeah, even women that they show, they're wearing a long dress, the everyday women's gear. I wouldn't want to do any beekeeping in a dress, I'll tell you.
Well, neither would I tell you, for a whole list of reasons, not the least of which would be a lot of controversy. But quickly getting off that topic and moving right along, so far as I can tell, this is just conversation, listeners, and Anne. The first time I could find a bee suit and the bee supply catalogs was in 1971 in an old Kelly beekeeping catalog. So I'm going to guess from a conversational stance, not from a review of the literature and all that kind of thing, that painter overalls were the first bee suits, and they were just made available in bee supply catalogs, along with a modestly increased number of veils. The Adelphos folding veil, those kind of things were coming into view then. So why painter coveralls? Why painter? Why didn't they just go to overall, some kind of overall contraption? Why those white coveralls? So one of the reasons I'd say right up, I want to say it first before you say it, would be because of heat. White would be a cooler outfit to wear. Can you think of any other reason other than just availability that painters already had to find out, meet people working in slaughterhouses, all kinds of businesses would wear these canvas coveralls.
Yeah, mechanics, they had like a tan or a light gray kind of a style, but it's a coverall. I kind of wish that the beekeeper catalogs had started out with the gray or the tan, because then we wouldn't look so dirty when we get our white jackets all propolis. I think the white was a disservice. We got to have a time machine and go back and change that.
I really like that comment. You know, a bee suit only looks good until you use it the first time. And if you want to look like a novice beekeeper, if you want to look like a new beekeeper, have a nice, bright, white, clean suit. I just had a flashback, Ann. When I was a kid, I tried to play Little League ball, and I wasn't very good at it. So I got to play a little bit, but never very much. After the game was over, I'd go roll around in the red soil on the infield to get my uniform dirty so my parents would think I'd play ball more. So if you have a white bee suit, you need to go out and just kind of dirty it up some so you will look more like an experienced beekeeper who's done this before. So I guess the white suit was a takeoff on the fact that these suits were readily available. And in my old days, veils were all tie down. So when you put these white suits on, they had no zipper contraption, no connection, nothing. So you had to be sure that that veil tied around your collar, around your waist, and all these contorted things that we did.
The little rings. People hardly know how to do that nowadays. It's the most inexpensive veil. So I've seen beginners get that, helmet with a tie-down veil or the Alexander veil or something like that. And then they just don't know what to do with the strings. It's so uncommon now. It used to be the most common.
That's exactly right. And they were contorted to put on, but once you suited up, you were good to go. And even in my earliest days, we had duct tape. So those painter coveralls made no effort to keep bees or mice or anything else from going up your pant leg.
The pockets were open, right? To go right through to your normal pants.
Which brings up my next question. I mean, this gets kind of weird, but I guess it depends on how hard you're working and how hot it is. But sometimes you'd put a suit over pants. And other times, if you weren't going to be doing a lot, I'd just put the suit on. But it's a strange thing, Anne. We start out as beekeepers wearing everything we can wear. Gloves, veils, suits, duct tapes, tall boots, whatever it takes. I don't want to be stung. I don't want, that's really hurt, but whatever. And then we do a slow strip over time. As you gain experience, you kind of go to a half suit. Don't put that whole thing on. Maybe the gloves, maybe they're under the seat of the truck. And you kind of get to a point where you're comfortable working bees, right? You just wear a veil primarily, and everything else is someplace. If you need it, you can go get it. And
the gauntleted leather gloves that have cloth all the way to your elbow, that was the beginner standard. And then we changed to more thin and then none, maybe go back to the thin nitrile. Definitely a good idea to just have the suit on or just have something more lightweight, which also beginners don't think of. They think of layering. Layering is the way to do it.
Yeah, but layering is so hot. Even on an average day, it is so hot in that suit. So the irony I was going to make, the point was that we start off fully dressed, completely dressed. Then as we are in the mid stage of beekeeping, we kind of lighten it up. And then as you get a lot of bees, a lot being 40, 50, 70, 200 colonies, I'm back to full gear again. Because, that you will take a fair number of stings if you work a lot of colonies. Plus, you got to work. You got to get the job done. Probably somebody's paying you. You can't dilly-dally around, so you suit back up, so you're back where you started, fully suited. And boy, those commercial beekeepers, commercial bee guys who might be listening, I'm not meaning to offend you, but that's some real rough-looking bee suits because those suits are really, really used hard.
And they do want to go fast, and they've got to do it all day. So they're going to want to be completely protected and not dilly-dally, as you say. They're not going to slow down because a few bees are buzzing around them. They're just going to put on that suit at the beginning and get going.
Let's take a break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We've got more to come.
Winter is coming. Prepare your bees for the cold months with Betterbee's insulating hive wraps, outer covers, mouse guards, hive straps, and more. Visit betterbee.com/winter prep for tips and tricks to help your hive withstand the harsh weather.
And there's no place to insert this, so I'll just force it in right here. You mentioned a bit ago that the pants pockets on those painter pants and subsequent most bee suits are open to the inside, so you can get to your pants pocket and as well as to a pocket that's in the bee suit most of the time, or the painter overalls, whichever you might call it. I learned years and years ago that you could take the blower off that Dadant tripod bee blower and jam into that open pocket inside your bee suit with that blower running, pretty much flat out, and it would blast air through that bee suit. And when you were just hot as blazes and covered in sweat, stick that blower in your shirt pocket, blow that bee suit out like the Michelin guy, and stand there with all that hot air just blowing right out your veil and out your sleeve cuffs. And it felt so good.
I hope someone took a picture of that.
I hope not, but it was helpful. That's a silly aside. If you look at catalogs now, it's absolutely stunning what's available. We've gotten away in many instances from white. And I agree with you. Why couldn't they at least have been gray? I said it was heat, maybe availability. Is there a third reason? Is there a bear thing that if you wore gray or darker colors, you would resemble a bear and the bees would be more? I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know if it is, but I do know that a fella I used to work with who was a very skillful beekeeper, he always wore blue jeans, pretty baggy blue jeans, and they were dark blue. And I didn't notice that he was getting a lot of stings on his legs. So I hear that about the bear, and the bees think the dark pants or the dark clothing is a dangerous animal, but I'm not sure I believe it. I do know that the few times I've used black gloves, like black cloth gloves in the winter to do oxalic acid, and I just grabbed those cheap black gloves. The bees did seem to go on purpose to my hands and wrists. So I don't know if that was a material thing or some smell that these new gloves have, but it's hard to tell. I think that maybe white was at the beginning because white material might just be cheaper than any dyed material. And then it was a tradition.
Well, excuse me, but you got me thinking about that. Maybe it was just the cheapest way to go.
We're cheap.
Yep. Most of the things in the catalog, you don't have to say anything since you work for a bee supply company, but most of the things in the bee catalog, by far, I buy just because I want them. Not because I have to have them, but I just simply want them. And if I can make one more statement off the subject, I sometimes think that I want those things because I really can't spend all that much time in my bee colonies. It's such a limited thing. So if I have all these other gadgets, trinkets, and toys, then I get to spend more productive time thinking about my bees. I don't know what it is, but there's all this gear now. Yep. This in-depth beekeeper psychology.
Let's not get into too much psychology.
Thank you for saying that, because I've just taken a recent shot at that, and I'm not sure it ended well. So we got all these options available to us. Do you wear a full suit every time you go out? Or are you working small colonies? Do you dress according to what you're going to be doing with the bees and how big they are?
I always wear the same thing because it's easiest to just grab the same thing. I have what you call a half suit. I call it a jacket, and it has the veil zipped to it, and I wear baggy pants and nitrile gloves. So it's whether it's a big honey production hive or nukes, or I'm just going to get some queens out of the queen bank, it's the same setup.
Well, I agree 90%. I wear a jacket, I'll call it that, a jacket suit. I like to have on baggy jeans for a different reason, not so much stinging, but because I can pack the bottom part the jacket suit inside my jeans, and then I'm fixed there. You have this odd outfit on, and then it's quick and dirty, and you go. But it's a light suit. It's not ventilated. So if I'm going to be moving bees at night, which doesn't happen much anymore, but were I to have to do that, I would suit up flat out all the way down, just because I don't want to have to stop in the middle of this with the smoker going and a colony open and bees all over me and have to go add more clothes at that point.
Oh, definitely. I didn't even think of moving bees at night because I basically try to never, ever do that. But you're right. The few times I had to go at night, I put on 2 pairs of pants. I put on tall boots. I duct taped the connection between them and the pants. The big old gloves that have leather hands and the sleeve goes up to your elbow. Definitely. That kind of situation, I'm completely suited up. You don't want anything to go wrong with moving bees at night.
It will go wrong, and no doubt about it. If you move bees at night, just a few things going wrong is a good night. I want to add this. It sounded like I'm a frontiersman, but in my earliest years in South Alabama, when we would go out at night on a summer night, whenever to work bees, you'd suit up more often than not, just because you didn't know what else was out there. Poisonous snakes. Underneath almost every one of my colonies down there, almost every one had 1 or 2 black widow spiders. So you're working bees at night, moving bees, loading bees up to go to watermelon pollination, and you're not the only critter out there. So believe it or not, my protective gear then was as much for other things, not just bees. So throw that in the mix. Sometimes I would suit up heavy just to be sure that nothing could get to me, not just bees. Do you wear ventilated suits?
No, I don't, because I feel like their sheer weight, pounds hanging on my shoulders, is not a comfortable thing. The ventilated suits seem to be too much. I like to just wear 1 layer cotton and usually nothing underneath because it gets too hot.
All right, I'm going to go with you to a point, and then I'll do the point counterpoint. I have one of those suits. It was fairly expensive, and as getting off the subject again, my grandson asked if he could have it. What am I going to say? So I gave it to him, but I didn't really want to give it away, but I'm sure he's making good use of it. But if it's a particularly hot day, I will put that suit on. But it is bulky, and multiflora rose will grab those suits and cling to them, and just about impossible to get away from them. So if you're going to be anywhere around briars, those ventilated suits, that porous material, just cling to those stickers on those briars.
Where's Jim? He's stuck out there by the edge of the hedgerow.
Trying to cut down multiflora rose is just going to grow right back. So I do wear them on occasion. I like them fine on that occasion, but most of the time I'm back to the Anne Frey method of just wearing a traditional set of half suits or jackets that I've got. The big suit hangs out in the cupboard there, waiting for the big day that's probably never going to come again. My suits are mostly white. I do have a couple that are sage.
Sort of a grayish green?
A grayish green, a faded green, and I like that all right. I want to begin to wind down on this note. Basically, bee suits have evolved. We got them from painters, probably, just like we did hive tools that were window openers. We call them hive tools. They're actually just pry bars. You can use a hive tool for anything.
I've used a hive tool to eat some yogurt.
Have any photos of that for future use?
Actually, yes.
Okay. You don't have a spoon? They're not that expensive, especially plastic ones.
Out in the field, Jim.
Okay. All right. Make do with what you got. I don't know why we haven't made more of a fashion statement. Why haven't bee suits broken into the public persona? Why haven't high school kids become just crazy about wearing yellow and sage and orange bee suits to school? But nope, bee suits stay right in our deal.
Well, it's a good Halloween costume sometimes.
It does. That's exactly right. My neighbor, who's not a beekeeper, dressed as a bee a few years ago, and then my wife dressed as a beekeeper, and people really responded to it nicely.
There's a beekeeping Barbie, so I think kids are a little bit connected with beekeeping as a job.
So you think it's coming, huh? I don't know if it's going to make it or not.
I don't think it'll be a tidal wave.
Well, folks, when you put on those bee suits, then you have all of those options to choose from. You need to know that it's been a long evolutionary process over the last 50 to 60 years for you to get to this convenient point. Anne, do you have any final words?
I think that people should remember what we were saying about the commercial beekeepers who are dealing with hundreds and needing to go fast all day, and picture that and contrast that with it being the same look as a hobbyist beginner, because I think that's a very interesting fact. Before the beginner gets so comfortable that they change to a jacket or less and less of the protective gear, they look just like a person who's got the job as a full-time job, and it's the polar opposite of the hobbyist who's a start out.
So it's the extremes.
Yeah, but they're the same.
They're the same. Same equipment. And I always enjoy talking to you. Thanks for your time. And you should have been doing something else.
No, Jim, it's fun to do a podcast with you.
Listeners, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening in. Goodbye.